Oh,
For
you're
those of
good.
you who are just watching the live stream, Rob and I are sitting here chit-chatting about the state of current events and the state of current politics in Ohio. And we thought, you know what? Let's just bring everybody else in as we go through this voter ID amendment and kind of give you guys all a perspective of where we are on things. And one thing I will say, throughout the course of this stream, you guys are welcome to jump into the comment section and comment or ask questions yourselves, and we will definitely interact with that stuff while we do this. But the legislature is in session. The General Assembly is convened in Columbus. All the politicians are there except for one or two, which we very much need there very badly right now. But the big topic of discussion that's going on right now in Columbus is this voter ID constitutional amendment. And I will say Rob is by far and away the expert on this topic here at Ohio Gun Owners. He's been running point on all of it. So if you guys are seeing emails and social media postings about it, Rob has been running point on this the entire time. So with that, Rob, why don't you just kind of go through it as you see it from the, I don't know, let's not do 30,000, let's do 10,000.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, basically what's going on is the House, first of all, the House and the Senate both had these resolutions. They were introduced about the same time. And it basically is to do one thing, and that is to codify photo ID to vote in Ohio and Ohio's Constitution. As you probably know, if you've gone to vote at a polling location or at your county board of elections anytime in recent years, you know that you've got to give them your photo ID in order to get your ballot, or if you're in a county that uses voting machines, the little card you stick in the machines to vote. That's already in the Ohio Revised Code. That's current law, but they want to solidify that in the Constitution. But the problem is when you hear photo ID and you hear in the Constitution, you're like, oh man, that's great. Let's get it solidified. The problem is the specific language, because the devil's always in the details, right? As you guys know, Chris, you know that. All of you guys watching, you all know that. The problem is when you say that in the legislation it says specifically only for mail in, or no, I'm sorry, I'm Freudian slip here. Not mail in, only for in person is the photo ID required in the Constitution. And actually, it actually sets up or codifies a lesser standard of voter ID verification for the mail-in votes. You're talking about the absentees and stuff like that. It actually says that it basically maintains the current law for mail-in ballots, which is basically you need a signature and you need either your driver's license number or your last four of your social security number, or a copy of your ID, but nothing's mandatory. Or it's mandatory you have to provide one of those forms on your absentee ballot, but not, it's not mandatory that you give them a copy of your photo ID. And that's kind of the problem that we've been articulating here, is that secure elections is a gun rights issue.
Absolutely.
And we cannot afford to have a system of election in Ohio where where the people that show up on election day have to produce their ID in order to vote. But you have a lesser standard in place for folks who want to or need to vote absentee. And Chris, I think you and I both agree that absentee ballots should be just totally outlawed or just highly curtailed. They should be
almost nearly impossible to.
At a minimum, only the most.
Yeah, if you're serving our country overseas or something like that, or you had a medical issue and whatever. I mean, there's limited exceptions for that, but this is where the potential for fraud, and this is where the potential for cheating comes into play. And if you don't have full faith in your election system, you don't have a country, you don't have a state. And so, yes, this is absolutely a gun rights issue. So
right, and when that happens, people stay home. They don't even bother to vote because they think their vote doesn't count. It gets watered down by fraudulent votes. You name it. And then all of a sudden now, the same elections where we have to cast these votes are the same elections where the politicians are decided at election time that will cast votes on gun rights bills, gun control bills. All sorts of legislation, taxes, data centers, all the issues that we've been talking about, immigration. illegal immigration stuff. So we have got to be secure in our elections because it does affect our gun rights down the line.
Well, absolutely. And here's the obvious example of it. We have imported the third world into so many different parts of our country,
By the
obviously,
millions.
by the millions. And I'm more of the Greg Bovino numbers guy. I think it's way above the 15, 20, 30 million people that is commonly accepted amongst politicians today. I think it's more in the 100 million if you were to go back and ultimately root out all of this stuff that has now taken root and that is now reproducing in this state and in this country. And so particularly, you can look at places like the north side of Columbus. You can look at places like Springfield, where these illegals and these people who are here on some kind of a temporary status, it's just a matter of time before they have the ability to go and vote themselves. So if it were up to me, this would be far more severe than what we're even talking about here. It should be citizens only. But I mean, I don't know. What's your thoughts about that, Rob?
Well, I'm really concerned about this because you've been talking about illegals and stuff in the perhaps 100 million or more, and when I was really digging into this issue, just bringing it back to this resolution here for the constitutional amendment on photo ID, I started looking into what it takes to get, because you think they say photo ID. Well, what kind of photo ID is acceptable? To vote, even if there's a photo ID requirement, what are the requirements to get a photo ID?
Yeah,
well,
who can get one?
Yeah, you can be an H-1B visa holder and get an Ohio driver's license as long as you've got the proper paperwork, federal paperwork saying that you are a legal resident. You're legally here with a visa or whatever. And then all of a sudden now you've got a photo ID with an ID number that then you could hypothetically use to vote in Ohio's elections. As you and I both know, Chris, we've got tons of fraudsters here, especially in Franklin County.
Of course.
And they lie every day in order to steal money from us, the taxpayer. And so it would be totally reasonable in their mind if they're milking us for millions and millions of dollars through Medicaid fraud, home health care fraud, you name it, fraud.
Why wouldn't they go for voter fraud?
Why wouldn't they just, because all it is, and this is the other point I was going to bring up, when you register to vote in Ohio, it's a check mark box. Are you a citizen? Yes or no? Check mark. There's no follow up. There's no citizenship papers required. And Ohio's,
but we're relying on the good word of a cultural demographic, because we will be open and obvious about this. This is a cultural demographic that historically, if you go back in their history, are totally fine with theft, grift, stealing from your neighbor in order to benefit themselves. We're not subscribers to the idea that paperwork magically makes you an American. Exactly. So we're relying on the good word of a group of people that have already proven to us that they're absolutely willing and very deliberately here to steal from us on a scale that's never been seen before. Right. And what's the number of prosecutions from all this fraud so far?
I think it's a very low number, like in the dozens, maybe. I mean,
yes,
maybe.
Yes.
But those are only the people that get caught, too.
Exactly.
I mean, if those are the people that get caught, and prosecuted, how many others have gotten free?
Exactly.
And, the other thing I wanted to bring up too about this is, we talked about, they call it attestation. You're attesting that you are a citizen, and that's what they're using as your good faith word that you're a citizen, even though you may not be. But think about it like this. If you walk into a gun store, your local gun shop, and you want to purchase a firearm, you've got to fill out that 4473 and provide the your identification to the clerk on the other end of the counter. They're not going to give you that gun until you pass that background check.
Right.
It's they're making you wait until they get the confirmation to give you that gun. So this voting system is like the opposite. They're giving you the right to vote before they actually go and double check that against some sort of immigration records or citizenship records that
Yeah.
they may have on their end. So, you know,
Yeah, that enrages me
yeah.
because our founding fathers were very explicit about who they were creating this country for. It was for us and our posterity, and it was only sufficient. The Constitution that they erected was only Constitution for the governance of a moral people. These people are not moral by our founders' standards,
Hmm.
and indeed, they come from cultures that are rooted generationally in theft. And
Yep.
that's just one of the things that they're so very adept at. We're seeing it all over the place right now. Some of these people have been invading European countries as well. We saw yesterday they were one guy was literally sitting on top of a Northern Irish man trying to behead him right in the public, and the guy is dead. Obviously, he slit his throat and was trying to behead him there in front of everybody else. And I'm not saying that they're all like this. What I'm saying is that this country was set up for us and ours. It was not ever designed to be given, to be opened up to the entire third world, and given American status to somebody who just document or gets here by means of paperwork. These people in Minnesota, these people here, and in California, these YouTubers are documenting this stuff. They're very deliberately moving here to steal from us,
Hmm.
and take and take and take, not build, not assimilate. Some of these people have been here for generations now, and 75+% of them are on public assistance. They're literally moving here to use the American taxpayers as a milk cow. And so,
Yeah. So why,
so
if
for
they're
them,
taking so much from us
yeah,
monetarily,
so
why
for
wouldn't they
them
take our
to,
votes too?
exactly, of course, so
Yeah.
of course they would be willing to do these things, and yet we have this low bar of attestation,
Yep.
instead of what you and I have to go through when we go through a 4473 to buy a firearm.
Right.
So this Senate joint resolution, since it's going into the Constitution, should be the most robust, ironclad version of this that you could possibly imagine. But it's not. It's not. It does not close down a loophole for non-citizens. It does not close down the loopholes for mail-in balloting. And that's why we have submitted, and you guys have been seeing on our social media posts and in our emails, that this should be a no vote
Yeah.
until these things are fixed. So the question I have for you, Rob, is why now? Why is this stuff coming up right now, right before the general election, when they've had years and years
Hmm.
to get this right and to deal with this issue? Why do you think that is, Rob?
You know, I think
What
that's
is that?
the question that a lot of people are asking right now. You know, I think there's a lot of speculation that it all has to do about November. It all has to
Imagine
deal
that.
with getting
Imagine that
turnout.
politicians delaying on everything, screwing voters over, Republican politicians, I should say. The Democrats generally deliver for their people, but Republican politicians pushing everything off. You know, no medical freedom bills, no gun rights bills. Stop those up in committee, sabotage them, watered them down, amended them into a hell and gone.
Yep.
Huge $1 billion slush funds given to the billionaire Haslam family for the Cleveland Browns stadium.
Don't forget about the data centers, all the 100% sales tax, 100% property tax abatements. I mean,
yes,
these companies are making billions and, yeah, I mean, maybe even trillions off the
yes,
backs of Ohio residents and taxpayers.
yes. Globalist companies that care not one brass farthing about you, your community, your culture, your people. We talked about this in one of our previous videos. We always view the people of Ohio as the main characters in the story of Ohio. These globalist companies couldn't care less about you. What they love is the fact that places in rural Ohio have these massive natural resources that the politicians have prohibited companies that want to explore these things for the benefit of the people. And now these globalist companies are shoveling money into the campaign coffers of these politicians. And now they are going to come in and extract all these natural resources, pull them out of the ground, make you pay for the infrastructure to build all of this out, and then enrich themselves. Not even a significant number of locally employed people to run these data centers. There's been a lot of talk about how that's all a con. The numbers that they're putting up here are a con in the first place. And so the politicians, Republican politicians in Columbus, are serving every single special interest in Columbus and DC, except for you, except for the people. Again, especially no gun rights bills, as we focus on very much so here at Ohio gun owners. So I think you're onto something there, Rob. I think this is a total get out the vote maneuver.
I mean, it's already on the books. I mean, what other reason would there be? It's just, I can't imagine another reason.
Right. They need people to turn out at the polls for a reason outside of the results that they have delivered. They need something to motivate them to get to the polls because they themselves have contributed significantly to this environment that we are in, where so many people are just like, you know what, I'm done. You guys aren't delivering for us, so I'm going to sit this one out. And I think, at least they're recognizing voter apathy. The problem is they're insulting the intelligence of gun owners and voters everywhere by saying, oh, no, don't look at our failures and our lack of delivering. Let's look over here. And maybe while you're there voting on that issue that we could have done years ago, maybe you'll go and vote down the ballot for us.
Well, and they're not even doing it right. I mean, this is a half measure at best.
Exactly.
So, you've got the left who are already obviously opposed to photo ID. But then you've got people, on the right, that are opposed to this, like us, because we realize what this is. And that is, you're trying to put something in the Constitution that's not ironclad, that does not go nearly far enough to what Ohio voters deserve. And that is full election security. Because like you said, Chris, we're talking about the Constitution here. It's not like we're talking about some statute that we can just go back and try to revise and make better later if we make a mistake. No, we're talking about something that takes a lot of work, a lot of time, and a whole election, in fact, to try to fix, and to put it back before the voters again, where millions and millions of dollars will be spent probably on either side. So, that's not something that you can just do willy nilly. So this has got to be right. And you're trying to, as Republicans, they should be trying to get the exact people that you and I and the people that are watching this right now out to vote. And if they're not doing that by this, then their whole objective is in the toilet anyway.
Yeah.
So
and I'm not even so convinced that it would work. Even if it was the ironclad version of it right now, which we very much would support and do support, if they do it the right way.
Yes.
Politically speaking, I'm not exactly sure that this is a winning issue for them if it is indeed their goal to get people to come out to vote, because this also is the one of the sacred cows of the left.
Mm-hmm.
It's a sacred cow. And so you have a left that is unified around one message right now, which is F President Trump. But on our side, we don't have the benefits of the flip side of that coin, because Trump is not on the ballot physically.
Right.
And so I just don't see how politically this is a slam dunk for anybody. It certainly is not a replacement for them having delivered huge and massive, substantial conservative policy. And I think that the biggest thing right now we hear about it. We hear about the data centers. We hear about the lack of gun bills. Obviously, we're a gun rights organization. We hear about this voter ID thing, but what we hear almost above them all is property taxes. And this Republican legislature had a huge opportunity to do something massive, and they didn't. And people's property tax bills are coming due. And you watch that Ohio, what's his name? The Ohio real estate guru guy on YouTube. And he just goes through the number of foreclosures, this tidal wave of tax delinquencies that are just rising up like a tidal wave. And you have people that have been living in their homes for a generation that have been paid for long ago, and they're sitting there on the incomes that they are on, and they are getting ravaged by inflation, by the cost of goods and services, and their incomes haven't been going up, but their property taxes have been going sky high. Yeah. The county man is there going by their property with a pair of binoculars saying, oh yeah, let's raise Billy's property valuation up another $50,000 and soak him for the tax increase. I mean, this is happening at a scale in a time in politics when it could not be possibly worse, in my opinion.
And I can't help but think that with the speed and the ferocity at which that they have tried to get these photo ID amendments on the ballot and passed out of the General Assembly, they could have very well done the same thing with property taxes.
For sure.
They this effort to try to repeal property taxes, they could have, think about this. This group, they had to get over 400,000 signatures to get, it's over 400,000 signatures to get on the ballot for a constitutional amendment. I think this group was only, maybe less than 100,000 signatures short of doing that. And these are people that were all volunteers. I mean, if you think about all the major constitutional amendments within the last decade, they've all had paid canvassers that were paid, tens and thousands, maybe even millions of dollars to go collect signatures across the state to get that done. These were just people like us that were just going out and saying property taxes are too high. Let's fix this right now. But the General Assembly could have, in less than a month, could have sponsored a resolution just like these to say we're going to put an amendment on the ballot, no property taxes. And imagine how many people would have showed up for that in November.
And there could have been, I can just hear the people shouting about the fire departments and all this different stuff right now in the comment section, or later on watching this. They could have handled all of that. It could have all been handled.
Think about what was it, 600 million that we gave to the Haslam family?
Yeah, and I want people to understand that wasn't just 600 million. By the time the debt service is all paid for, it's going to be over $1 billion.
Well, yeah. Think about how many firefighters and police officers we could.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Or if we just actually deported every single illegal alien fraudster in the state and shut down their fraudulent home health care companies, that are giving their wives money to take care of their grandma, and not even actually doing a thing.
That's why fire services are so expensive. That's why housing is so expensive. That's why policing costs are so expensive. It's not because of the natives that are here. It's because we've brought in all of these illegals, and the burden for that stuff is not borne by the bleeding hearts that brought them all in here and said, oh, you too can be an American. Here, sign up for this program, this program, this program. That's not what makes an American. But all of that, it can all be taken care of, and all of our costs would go down low.
Because you've got, all these millions of people, flooding the state. They need police protection. Their apartments need protection from fire. And the list goes on, and they're on government assistance, and they're also, potentially having a childcare center that watches kids, imaginary ones perhaps during the day, that they're getting money from, and it inflates the cost of everything. They're stealing money from us, and it makes our services cost more.
Yeah,
it's all down
to an emergency room, go into a school room. Yep. All of that stuff would be solved. We need all of these translators to teach these kids what they're growing up and learning how to fleece the system. Generations from now, they're still at 75% plus on public assistance. And so because they refuse to deal with those issues because they're terrified of being called a racist, if you just as government defend your own people and make your own people's lives better, they're just terrified of those things. And so the entire cost for all of this stuff, they wouldn't be consuming electricity, it wouldn't be consuming water. All of the permanent cost, the fixed cost for those services goes right through the floor. But no, instead they're pivoting right onto, well, let's make sure that these data centers have full-blown easy access to all of our natural resources, because that's the biggest, that's the next thing that we all have to focus and zero in on. So the whole thing, it's very understandably making the average voter who can look around and just notice. Everybody's looking around now and noticing what's going on.
Yep.
And that is that everybody else except for Americans, except for Ohioans, are being taken care of. And that is the biggest. People aren't as stupid as these politicians treat them. And because of that, they're pulling out these desperate measures that are totally fake in order to try to get people to go to the polls and vote for more of this same bullshit. And that's exactly what it is. You know,
you're absolutely right.
Somebody just commented, said, Mary says, I just told Brian Stewart that unless he's a state representative from OGO headquarters area, that unless they put requirements for voter ID, mail-in ballots, I will not vote for it. And that encapsulates it right there, Rob. What were you going to say?
I was just going to say, you know, Mary, thank you for that comment. I have seen lots of people, actually, you're not the only one, that has said, I'm not going to support that, because it all comes down to this. We're going to put in the Constitution, like we've talked about, this half-baked measure that's just going to solidify the current two-tiered voting system, or for, you know, photo ID for in person, but then, you know, just a signature and a ID number for absentees.
It's ridiculous.
That's so dumb. Why would you bake that into the Constitution when we could actually just go ahead and fix the law in the legislature? They just don't have the guts, the balls to do it.
Yeah. And somebody somewhere went running to President Trump and said, we're trying to pass voter ID in Ohio. We need your support. And so this morning he tweets out what he did. Senate Republicans have done X, Y, and Z. I'm watching the House. You guys should do it too. So he's drilling all the way down into the state legislative level from DC. But the problem is, he's operating under the assumption that Republicans in Ohio are actually passing real voter ID.
Right.
And they lied to him.
Yeah.
So no, it's just an absolutely damnable situation that Republicans are running themselves. Republican leadership, I should say. There is a whole section of the Ohio House Republicans, in particular, one or two, I think, over on the Senate side. One, yes. Al Catrona. He is the only one who voted against it. Kudos to you, yep. Our brother in freedom, Al Catrona. Patriot. He is a patriot. He is a true patriot. And he voted no because he knows what a charade that this is. So our hats are off to Catrona. But there's a whole section, for lack of a better term, in the House Republican caucus that understand what a joke that this is, and what I keep coming back to is how it's so insulting. It's so insulting to the average voter to treat them this way. You know, it's like these people have literally view themselves as knowing what's best for everybody else. They think that nobody else can see what they're doing. But I think the proof will be in the pudding.
Yeah, I saw so many comments already today on our Facebook page of people saying, well, wait a second, I don't remember ever having voted in an election where I didn't have to give photo ID. So people are already you know, thinking, well, why are we doing this? We already have photo ID. I've already had to give my photo ID every time I go vote. But the problem is you've got a whole segment of people that only vote on election day, but you've also got, on the flip side, a whole segment of the population that only vote absentee for the very reason that they can get away with so much more doing a mail-in ballot, because you don't have to you sit in front of an elections person and say, who are you? Show me your ID. Right. You know, you could just do the attestation. Here's my ID numbers, and here's my signature, my scribble. You know,
and one of the worst things about this is none of this is being solved proactively. This potential for fraud is not dealt with proactively. And what we mean by that is that the results of an election can happen, and it can later be determined that something bad or that something fraudulent occurred, but that's not going to be enough to overturn the election results.
Right. They're not going to redo an election just because there were some fraudulent votes. No,
of course not. Of course not. So it's setting up the potential here for a catastrophe of enormous proportions. I think in the short term, looking ahead to November, I think there's turnout issues.
Yeah.
But generationally, over the course of the next 20, 40 years, it is setting up potentially catastrophic results from these people who have no right to vote in American Ohio elections.
Yeah.
And that ultimately is what we're looking at here at Ohio Gun Owners long term, because we all have families. Families, our children, are why we are engaged in this work of Second Amendment advocacy in the first place. But we see massive problems for those to come after us if these issues are not addressed right now. I mean,
Yeah.
it's one thing to have a bunch of illegals here draining the entire system and depleting the wealth of the people. But then if they're then allowed the ability to go and vote, they will vote Native Americans dry and
Yes.
dead. They will steal their voting power. And then all of a sudden we will be enslaved to them. And that's just not a world that we choose for our children and our grandchildren. I mean, am I weird?
No, you're quite the opposite, because I have two boys of my own, and I feel the exact same way.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. So I know a lot of times you guys get onto these videos with us and you're like, golly, you guys are way out of you're way out of the pen. You know, why don't you guys just stick to gun rights? Well, absolutely everything is downstream now of illegal immigration. Every single issue. So, like Rob said,
you can't talk about these issues without saying that these issues are connected to immigration.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, because where does the violent crime come from that they use to bludgeon us over the head with over and over and over in these committee hearings where they're sponsoring gun control bills? Well, almost every single one of them are examples from these inner city destruction zones, for lack of a better term. Some people call them ghettos. But these are the examples that they use to try to use as leverage to pass laws that don't affect those people at all whatsoever. They only affect you and me, true Americans who obey the law, because that's the system our founders built and set up for us all. The other side doesn't live according to them. You can pass 1 million gun control laws, 1 million laws against murder. These people still won't follow the law because of cultural issues, spiritual issues, issues that can't be solved by a legislature. So
yeah, it's hard to solve issues with these people when they don't even really identify as Americans. A lot of them say "death to America" or "we hate America." And
go to your average Black Lives Matter rally. We were at several of them back in the heyday of BLM, and they couldn't be more clear about how much they hated us and wanted to subjugate us, and actually many of them just wished we were dead. Yeah. They wished they were hurling death threats at us right and left at those events. But we're supposed to sit here and pretend that we can craft laws or address these things legislatively. I think that's preposterous. But that's where these problems are arising out of. I would say, well, maybe the mass shooters, those kinds of people, that's a whole different demographic. Generally, they've been molested as kids. They've been doped up with SSRIs, and maybe their parents let the little girls say that they were boys, or let their little boys pretend that they're girls, and go down that road. A lot of those people have grown up to become monsters. Yeah, so it's big picture here for us at Ohio Gun Owners. It always has been. These are worldview issues for us. And we would say that our worldview is very much in line with what our founding fathers had for this country. So all of these, and we're, I saw somebody, let me see this here somewhere else. Julie Lawrence had made the comment, they want Amy. We're gonna shoot a whole video on this topic in the very near future. On the topic of the gubernatorial race in particular. Because it very much seems to the casual observer right now who is watching the way Ohio Republican leadership is maneuvering, it sure seems like they are setting up the people for a big fall. The message is being received by the grassroots loud and clear. Screw you. We are for everybody but you. And that could have catastrophic results that we don't want, but results that gun owners might be forced to interact with out of sheer necessity in the future. So we'll be shooting a video on that topic in more detail down the road. But
for sure.
That's the way it is right now. Rob, give us a timeline on this SJR10 resolution.
Yeah. So the way that things are looking now, I think that the Senate Joint Resolution 10 is the bill they're using as the vehicle for this. They, like I said earlier, they had a House version as well, but the Senate version was moving faster. As it looks right now, the House General Government Committee, which is where this Senate Joint Resolution is now in, it looks like they're going to have a vote tomorrow, possible vote. I think that vote's going to happen tomorrow morning, and I don't recall the time of that committee, but I think it's maybe 9 or 10 in the morning tomorrow. And then they're going to vote that. They're going to report that out of the committee, and then they'll send it to the Rules Committee, which meets at like 10:30, I think, 10:30 tomorrow. And then at that point, they'll put it, the Rules Committee will place that joint resolution on the calendar for tomorrow's session, which meets at 2 p.m. And then I imagine they'll try to vote it out of the House prompt, right around that time, around 2 o'clock. So it looks like this is all going to happen in the next 24 hours.
Okay. Well, if you guys look in the title and description of this video, well, in the comments, I don't know if we actually have it in the description. We'll probably update the description after this video is over, but please email your state reps and your state senators about this. It will very likely I doubt that the House will just take the Senate Joint Resolution from the Senate and just deliberate on that. They'll likely tweak it like they normally do. The chambers always have a fight going on back and forth. So it will likely go back to the Senate after this House vote for a concurrence vote. And so please click those links and email your state reps and your state senators. There's also phone call information there for you guys. But hang on, I'm getting some messages right now. There's games afoot. But please avail yourselves of that. I was looking at the calendar just a little bit ago, Rob, before we started this video, and I saw that they have as needed sessions both next week and the week after that. So in order to get this right, I know what a lot of the reps want to do right now is they want to have a marathon session today and tomorrow, and then they want to bounce out for the rest of the summer. No. You guys are being paid to do this job. Get in there and do your job and get it freaking right. So they have as needed session dates scheduled already for next week and the week after. So please get on the horn and email your state reps and your state senators. Tell them, don't you freaking dare. Don't you slap us. Don't piss in our face and tell us it's raining. Right. It's not. We see you for what you're doing. You're not going to get away with this. This is certainly not going to elevate our desire to go and vote for some of these people when you're treating us this way. So,
right. And the simple part about it is, the message is you need to fix this or vote no. That's the message. Because like we've already talked about, just to kind of bring this home, if you need to produce a photo ID to vote in person at your polling location or at the Board of Elections, you have to have photo ID for mail-in ballots. That is it. That's as simple as it gets. It should be one standard of voting, no matter how you choose to vote. And we can't afford otherwise, because like we were talking about earlier, we elect our representatives through voting. And if gun owners stay home because they don't think that their elections are secure or that their votes actually count, that is a big problem for our Second Amendment rights, because these people are the ones that will end up making these decisions.
Just take a look at Ismail Muhammad. He's the state representative, Somali state representative from the north side of Columbus there. This guy, he comes from a culture that uses AKs on each other to solve their social problems. And this guy is one of the guys that's in there
Yep.
And there's been all kinds of national news stories about he and other Somali legislators like Ilhan Omar are all coordinating with each other. But this guy is in there running gun control, supporting gun control, and his people are getting shipped in here. I mean, God forbid a Democrat win the White House in 28, we'll be in big trouble. But you allow these people to get legal status, paperwork status, and then all of a sudden they can start voting because we have this crap system in place to safeguard our elections. And all of a sudden, these people are the committee chairs. These people are electing the Speaker of the House. And all of a sudden, we people, the people who built this state, who built this country, are the serfs and the slaves of these people who came in here with no intentions other than to pilfer the system.
Facts.
Makes me upset.
That's why we cannot refuse to get this wrong, because
exactly
everything is on the line.
Yes, our kids I would love to see it. Need us to get this stuff right.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'd love to see this go a step further and just say, to further clarify, that the photo ID that you need to vote has to, or maybe make a special ID for non-citizens that says, I am a non-citizen. So it's very clear that if they try to use that ID for voting purposes or anything else, it's very clear, I am not a citizen. Do not let me vote.
Yes.
So I think we need to go even further. Yes, it should be. It's just an extra, they already have to print, they already have the cards. They run them through a machine that just prints your information on them. Just add that on to the card. Just print that extra little bit of black text on there.
And the voter registration process needs to absolutely be updated to go away from attestation to physical proof that you're a citizen.
Yeah, there's no citizenship proof to register.
What better way to invade a country than to do it legally?
Right.
Than to do it legally according to a set of rules and laws erected by lesser men of greater sires, as the quote from.
And that's what I think is so funny, when people, especially on the left, when they talk about, voter fraud is really rare, hardly ever happens. Well, look at what's happening in California right now. When you legalize fraud, of course, you're not going to find fraud. You have legalized all the means by which someone would commit fraud in their elections. And when our system is predicated on, well, go ahead and vote, and we'll figure out whether you voted right after the fact. That is not a system to have faith in. I'm sorry, it's not.
It's like saying, go ahead and become the new headmaster of our daycare center, of our Leering Center. And just tell us that you passed the background check and that you're not a pedophile. And if you are, we'll come along. And if we find out that you are, in fact, a chomo, we'll come along later and deal with that issue then. But just check the box. Tell us you're not. It'll make us feel good. And that way you can be legal. You have legal status to do to go and daycare, leer those kids.
Right. Or kids. Can you imagine, like we talked about earlier, Chris, you walk into a gun shop, they hand you the 4473. You say, hey, this Glock 19 Gen 6 looks like a great gun. I'd like to buy it. And you fill it out and you say, no, I'm not a felon. No, I'm not under any drug, use. No, I'm not I haven't been mentally committed, all the different lists.
Yeah.
And then you hand it in, they say, okay, here's your gun. We'll call you if we find any issues with your 4473. Can you imagine that? I mean, that's literally what our election system is like right now.
Yeah.
But we're going to take your word for it that you're not, someone that you say you're not, or someone that you say you are. And then it will go from there. And then if we'll come after you though, if you aren't, but knowing full well that, not everybody will get caught, just because that's how our legal system is so bogged down. And if you're committing fraud in Franklin County or Cuyahoga County or Hamilton County, what do you think the odds there that those county prosecutors are going to prosecute those crimes?
They're already so backlogged that they could never even dream of being able to get all this. And if it's done coordinated, if they coordinate on this stuff and do it in one fell swoop or on scale, there's literally no way to stop this stuff from happening. Then they vote themselves into power. They get the votes they need to change the laws so that you can't retroactively do. I mean, you can see the problem. And I think there's a for so long, because we've never had to like think in these terms in America. We've had this idea that these rights that we've codified in the Bill of Rights are universal. And it's been something that a lot of people took issue with us when we first started talking about this. But the right of the Second Amendment, the right to keep and bear arms, for example, that's not a right that that has no guardrails on it. It's not an unlimited, unbounded right. The Second Amendment doesn't apply to somebody who is sitting in a Cambodia jungle right now, a drug dealer or something, a cartel member over there. It is the exact same way here in the United States. These rights are for us and our people to make sure that our lives are protected, that our freedom is protected, our lives, our posterity will continue.
Yep.
And but they have erected these requirements and restrictions around the Second Amendment, and yet they look at voting and they're like, no guardrails. Let's let everybody do it because diversity is our strength. We all really just have the good for each other in mind. Never even considering the fact that some people don't have what's best for you or your kids or your grandkids in mind. And they have every ill will wished against you. We cannot have that with the right to vote. It's for us. It's for our people.
Yep.
And I don't think that's controversial. I think that's common sense. That's why people have locks on their doors. That's why people have fences. That's why everybody supported President Trump when he was campaigning in 2020, 24, build the wall. It's because
deport.
It's not because we hate those outside of the locks, the walls, the doors. It's because we love the people within.
Yep.
This is not a foreign concept. It is as old as humankind. And these legislators need to be taught this lesson. So again, click those links, fire off your emails, make phone calls to them, say, do your job that you were elected to do, or they're going to face the price at election time. We'll be
secure our elections.
What's that?
Secure our elections, period.
Yes.
That's it.
Yes.
Photo ID to vote in person, photo ID to vote absentee. It's as simple as that.
Yep.
We need to fully secure our elections.
And then redo the voter registration
and that
process.
Yes.
Yeah. It all has to be done. Every single bit of it has to be done.
Yeah.
It has to be done now.
Let's catch the fraud on the front end so we don't have to go through the prosecution process on the back end. That shouldn't be a revolutionary idea. That sounds like common sense to me. Think of how much time and energy and resources would be saved not having to hunt these people down and prosecute them when what you could have done is just deny them their voter registration because they're not a citizen, period.
It's their obligation to do these things.
Yeah.
It's their job to do these things. That's why they are our government. So for those of you who got super pissed off at this, tough luck. That's just the way it is. It's the things we have to consider. It's the choices we have to make. It's the decisions we have to come to grips with now in this country moving forward. And the time for half measures was back in 1995, because quite frankly, that's when a lot of these things got started. And our greatest concern, not our greatest concern, one of our great concerns that we have right now is that because of Republican politicians' bad policy, that all of these chickens are going to come home to roost in the coming election cycle, right when we can afford it the least.
Right.
So guys, everything we do right now has a huge magnified impact on what happens in the future. So be bold. Don't be apologetic when they accuse you of being something. Just be like, if that's what it takes to get this policy changed, I'm fine with that. People called President Trump a racist, a misogynist, a homophobe. And you know what? After a while, he's just like, screw you.
Yeah, they literally tried to kill him several times.
Right.
You know?
We have to adopt that stance going forward. We cannot be so concerned about being liked by the political class that we're not willing to hold their feet to the fire. And that's all we're asking you guys to do right now. Hold their feet to the fire, get in touch with them and say, don't you dare slap me on the face and tell me that it's for my own good. That's a total lie. And don't do half measures. Fix the voting system like Rob just said. What was your phrase? I liked it.
What did I say? If photo ID to vote by mail, then it should be photo ID to vote mail in.
Yeah, something about something strong elections or
secure our elections. Period.
Yeah,
that's it.
Yes,
secure our elections.
Secure our elections from
that.
top to bottom. Because without real secure elections in this state and in this country, we are doomed. So I don't like to be a doomsday kind of guy, Rob. You know, it kind of hurts me to say it like that, but that's the way it is. And if you study demographics a little bit, it's not a pretty picture. So thanks a lot for watching, everybody. Take action, and we will be back with more as we learn more. Until then, go beat their political ass.